Hey there, folks. Are you passionate about democracy and concerned about the rise of authoritarianism? Do you feel like your voice just isn't being heard? Well, I do too. That's why I'm so excited to tell you about the Coffee with Courage podcast. It's an Oklahoma-based grassroots movement, just like you and me, dedicated to promoting democracy and, most importantly, empowering your voice at the ballot box. So, join host Kevin Dawson. He's got some great things to say. And let's make some noise together. It's time we were heard.
Hey, and welcome to Coffee with Courage. We've changed the time on this. You know, we used to do it at 10 o'clock in the morning. It was always coffee in the morning. Well, now we can have, let me get my cup up here. We can have a little courage too if we choose to have some courage in the evening. So we're not confining ourselves or defining ourselves by coffee anymore. We can define ourselves by whatever we want to drink in the evening and enjoy the conversation. And hey, I'm going to welcome a great guest of mine, a really good, somebody that I met a couple of weeks ago that I really appreciate. I grew to like her a great deal. This is Amy, and she is running for House District 74 up out of Owasso. And for those that are like me, I'm geographically challenged sometimes, and I'm not real sure exactly where Owasso is. Tell us just a little bit about where can we find Owasso on the map?
Of course. So if you're familiar with where Tulsa is, Owasso is just north of Tulsa. So okay. It is the suburb up north. Yeah.
Well, welcome to Coffee with Courage. It's so good to see you, and it's so good to see you again. I mean, we were at the Campaign Academy up at Midwest City, and we were in so many classes together. We had so much fun and interacting with people and getting to know some new things about campaigning and some, you know, it really was a really good, functional, and very helpful campaign academy that's put on by the the Oklahoma Democratic Party. So, and the best thing about the whole ODP campaign academy is we got to meet each other.
Yeah, indeed.
So we're going to get kind of right into brass tacks here a little bit. We're going to get right into talking about you and who you are and your campaign. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to you and let you talk about what's going on in your neighborhood or your part of the prairie.
Thank you. Well, of course, first, thank you for having me. I so very much appreciate the opportunity. So, you know, the thing that's happening up here in Owasso that really is, I think, really important to viewers, to voters, to the community here. In February 11th, we had a vote on the bond issues for the schools. And so one of the bond issues passed for transportation, but the other one did not. And so that is, you know, is supposed to add and improve the 5th grade center, and I believe 8th grade center, art. So there's so many different things that it was going to improve for the schools. And so I was really disappointed that that one didn't pass. So, you know, someone had asked me about that over Facebook, and I replied to her and I said, well, the voters didn't vote that in, didn't approve that. I didn't feel that that was necessarily the entire view of the population of Owasso. I say that because most of the people here, they feel like Owasso Public Schools is some of the best schools in the area. And so some families have even moved to Owasso just to be able to send their kids to the schools here. So I think that means that the school education is very important to our community, but perhaps maybe they didn't know about the bond, They didn't realize that it was up for a vote, or maybe they just got busy and they didn't vote that day. But I think that education is extremely important to our community and to our families here. So that's what's kind of going on up here. That's really kind of on my mind.
So let me jump back in here. We have a guest in the audience. It sounds to me like we might be having some feedback issues. Maybe it's on my side of the television. So let me mute mine, and we'll get back in and let you talk a little bit more. And Miss Woodstock, if it still is a problem, please let us know. I think I'm going to solve the problem by muting my monitor. So I apologize for that, Amy. So please go ahead.
Yeah. So, besides that, I think that other things that are really important, I talked with some of the folks already just to get their thoughts on what's important here. So one of the thoughts was the infrastructure here in town. There's been a lot of improvements, of course, with the construction at 96th and 129th, and that has just made that intersection so big and beautiful and wonderful to be able to get around that intersection now. But other places like east of 129th, both on 76th Street as well as 86th, it just goes down to a 2-lane right there after 129th. And so, being able to broaden those would be good for our community. There's always improvements to be made. But I think that would be important, especially for the community that's just, east of, in Stone Canyon and, that area, that would be important for them. And so that might be something that we would work on if I was elected.
Well, it's very interesting to see your advocacy. So I just want to make sure you can hear me still, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's so interesting to see your advocacy and how you're really bringing it together for your campaign. So I want to bring up and show people your actual website, because I think this
Sure.
might help people identify a little bit more with you, because it's kind of got a background story, a backstory of who you are and how you're how you became who you are. And it actually talks a little bit about your you've got some accomplishments too that are very beneficial. So let me pull it up onto the stage and let you talk about. There is your website, Amy. For it's very simple. It's Amy for OK.com. That's AMY number 4 OK.com. It's so simple. That is such an easy one. I don't know how you got that one, that it wasn't taken and that URL wasn't taken, but there's a place in here that talks a little bit about your backstory. Let me see if I can get that in there. There it is. There's a long narrative here that talks about who you are. And you grew up in Kansas, and we had that. We kind of have that in common. I was raised in Kansas as well.
Yeah, so I was actually adopted from Seoul, Korea. So I was born in Seoul, adopted into a farming family in Kansas, Southeast Kansas. Growing up, I was the only minority. The school that I went to was very small. My high school graduating class had only 32 kids, but I was the only minority in my class, and for many classes, above us and below us. And so there were a lot of instances that nowadays we call that being marginalized. So there were many cases that happened. I was bullied. Even when I was very, very young, I remember going into, with my family, going into a restaurant and being asked to leave because of me. And so at the time, of course, I was terribly young, maybe 4 or 5. I had absolutely no idea what was going on. Us kids, we were hungry, we were thirsty, we wanted to eat and drink, and the parents said, "Let's go, guys." So those are the kinds of things that really made it. And I apologize, I got a phone call. So as I continued, going through, just life, these kinds of things kind of started to stand out to me. And some folks, they don't really have a voice, or maybe they don't feel like they have a voice. And so that became kind of really important to me. I started out in politics as a volunteer. Hopefully everybody knows John Waldron. I helped drive him around as he was door knocking weekend after weekend after weekend. I thought he was crazy, really. I would joke about that with him now, of course. But in any case, so I did a lot of volunteering. Through the years, I held different offices. I was the first Asian to hold the affirmative action officer position for Congressional District 1. The first Asian to hold office for Tulsa County Democrats, for the vice chair position and the chair position. So I was presented some really great opportunities to be able to serve. During those times, I really saw a lot of things that really opened my eyes and made me even more want to make a difference. For example, now I work for DIVIS. DIVIS is Domestic Violence Intervention Services. They're very supportive of my campaign, actually, so it's refreshing to have a supportive employer. But their work is phenomenal. So everything that I've gone through, that I've seen, that it's impactful, and it really makes one say, there are people out there that need our help. There are people out there that need a leg up. Maybe things happen to them that are beyond their control, and they need someone to be on their side, someone to fight for their rights, to fight for what's better for them and their families. And that's what I'm all about, really. Hopefully that answered.
I tell you, yes, and it's so refreshing that you were able to overcome those pitfalls early in life, and really push back to the point where you're actually running now for House District 74 to represent the people within your community, to give the people within your community a voice, as well as
That's right.
represent them in the Capitol, and that's such an admirable thing. And through all of your advocacy, through all of your life, you've always looked ways to overcome and achieve greater results. And that I just see it in you, and I appreciate you so much. It's really refreshing to have someone as genuine. And that, I'm going to say that seriously. You are so genuine and so polite. I find that so refreshing, and it's so encouraging as well. So you might understand this when I say this. We get defined as Democrats by what other people sometimes want to portray us or tell us who we are, and I'm tired of that. And but we don't have to be forceful in telling people who we are.
That's right.
We have, you have such a steady voice. It may seem soft, but it is a strong tone, even when you speak, that people are going to take and listen to what you have to say. Because bottom line, some of these people that are in the Republican side, I wonder if they even graduated from grade school. And you're going to be over there actually educating them on government and on just the simple things of governance. And that is so amazing. You'll be able to put your arm around them and help guide them, because when you're in the Capitol, it's no longer we versus or they versus me or
Exactly.
whatever. You have to work together, and you have to work together for sometimes for causes that you may think that you never had the opportunity or wanted to even get involved in, but now all of a sudden you are involved in them, and you have to try to show some guidance and grace and help direct some people in directions that they don't understand. This whole thing that got brought up a few weeks ago, where they wanted to pass legislation to allow for corporal punishment of children. I can see you being that voice of reason that will reach across the aisle to a Republican who is absolutely adamant that my Bible told me that we're going to do this. But you would be that voice that would tell them, hold on. So,
I would say that my profession actually gives me a little bit of an edge there, because I work in human resources. That is often what we're doing. We are, you mentioned education. So sometimes it's educating the employee on, what benefits they might have. Sometimes it's educating the employee on what opportunities they may have for career progression. You talk about reaching across the aisle. When you have an employee base, not every employee will be, will believe the same things that you do. But you still need to work for them, and you still need to represent them to the employer. So even though you may not agree with everything that they want, you're still representing them. And so that part of me, that HR side of me, that just doesn't go away. That's now part of who I am in my blood. And so, being a representative just makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'll tell you what, every time I get around and speak with you, I just feel like I want to sit and listen and pay attention, because like I said, you may be quiet, but you have such a loud voice with the actual words. I just find you to be one of the most intelligent people that I spend time with. And
goodness, thank you.
I appreciate that so much. Because, as a lifelong learner, somebody who really enjoys having these one-on-one conversations across the internet, I appreciate it when people have this kind of respect that you have. So we're continuing to have a little bit of a problem, and I promise I will correct this the next time, Miss Woodstock. I apologize. It's my side that's doing it, but in order for me to hear, I don't have my earplugs in today, and it's a little bit of a chore to do it, and I don't want to take the time to do that and take it away from Amy. So, Amy, I'm going to give it back to you so that you can say a few parting words, and then we will close this down as soon as you get done. I'll be able to listen to you, but I'm going to mute my side.
Sure. So, in closing, I think that some of the most important things to me, and I think that is common to the communities around Oklahoma, really all over the nation, things that are important to all of us. We have to have quality education. We have to have education that supports the teachers, provides them with wages that is, commensurate with their experience and what they're doing for us. I think that affordable housing is extremely important. We don't want to have our kids go off to school, graduate from their schools or colleges or their, higher education, and have to move back to live with mom and dad. And why? Not because they don't, want to be self-sufficient, not because they didn't try. It's because costs are too high. So affordable housing, other things, healthcare. Healthcare needs to be accessible no matter where you live. So if it's, a rural area, you need to have healthcare, and healthcare for everybody and for every kind of healthcare. That's vital for all Americans, all Oklahomans, for our communities. The last thing I wanted to say is livable wages. We have to increase our wages. At $7.25 just doesn't cut it. I can keep going up the scale of wages, but we have to be able to pay our workers for wages that they can support a family. So those are some things that are really important to me. I think that will resonate to the community. Certainly, I ask for your vote. I feel that together we can make a difference. Together we can. So ask for your vote in the general election. And I certainly welcome you to, again, go to my website, amy4ok.com. You can donate, you can register to volunteer, and you can find out some more about me. You can send me a message, I'll reply. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for coming on Coffee with Courage. And it's, again, I encourage people to do one more thing. Go to your website and donate. We need for people to donate to your campaign. If all they do is buy a cup of coffee, the equivalent of a cup of coffee, for your campaign, it goes a long ways. It buys a bunch of mailers that, might reach that 1 or 2% that it would take you over the top and allow you to win and be the representative for House District 74. So let's be sure and continue to push that. And for the folks that are listening here, and apologize for the technical issues, but I'll tell you what, we've got somebody that we really need to be proud of and support, get excited. And remember this, when you go to the ballot box, it's the same thing as clapping and cheering for somebody on the football or basketball or baseball or at a concert, somebody that you really appreciate. That's what your vote actually does. That is your cheering that person on. So don't get discouraged and say, well, my vote doesn't count, because it really does, because the more people that vote, the louder it gets. That's the way you need to think about it. And the louder it gets, the more exciting it is. And we need to really drive that excitement up so that people be excited and really think about, voting is just like all these other, sports or concerts. It is an appreciation sport. We have to appreciate who our talent is, and those people are our representatives. So we need to do everything we can to help get Amy elected into House District 74. Thank you so much for coming on Coffee with Courage.
Thank you.
You're just such an outstanding person. I'll tell you, every time, I've said it all the way through this, I just cannot spend enough time with you, because there's always something that you bestowed on me and tell me that I respect so much. So thanks for being on Coffee with Courage.
Yeah, thank you. Kevin, I think that you're muted.
I am muted. Oh, for crying out loud. So sorry about that. But we're going to take a break on Coffee with Courage. I have an announcement, but I'm not going to do it on this particular show because I don't want to take anything away from Amy. But we are going to take a hiatus for probably 3 or 4 or 5 months, and then we'll get started up again after I get it done with what I have to do. That's going to take an enormous amount of time for me. So folks, thank you so much for coming on and listening to us on Coffee with Courage. And until the next time we can get back on here, everyone, please be safe, and thank you. This episode of Coffee with Courage podcast is brought to you by VeteransAgainstFascism.com. VAF is a group of veterans whose mission is to defeat fascism and fascist politicians in the United States of America. Email them at infoveteransagainstfascism.com. Help us in our mission. Donate today by going to veteransagainstfascism.com, support US.